You're listening to the Bible and Barbells Podcast, where we're striving for self-discipline in every area of our lives in order to become more Christ-like. I am Mark, and I've got with me my son Isaac. I got Brooks and Raleigh with us, and we're ready to go. So this is our discipleship group, and we're here to bring you guys along. All right, how we doing?
We're doing pretty good, boys. Isaac's back, and we have a new guest, Raleigh. He is Brooks' twin brother.
Guest of honor.
Yeah, guest of honor. Talking about.
I'll be here more. It's just those two, Isaac and Brooks, they get out before me.
Yeah, but you only have 1 week of school left.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So even if I don't leave next week, it's no big deal.
And I've just been leaving school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the big thing we're excited about is we are going on a canoe trip tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
We're headed to Current River in Missouri. We got a big group, so we're looking forward to a good time. Should be a big adventure.
I'm actually so pumped about that. I'm not even gonna lie.
I cannot wait.
Yeah, and it's gonna be hot.
Mm-hmm.
Giddy.
It's gonna be hot. I was gonna order one of those military, rag things for your neck that
those
gator things.
I forgot the name.
Yeah, balaclava.
Balaclava. That's what it is.
How do you just know that? I don't know.
I know military stuff. That's what I'm good at.
Oh, okay. All right. What do you got for us today, man?
All right. Today we're talking about the discipline of the tongue. This is certainly the most difficult discipline that I think any of us will face. Whether it's people who have a tendency to talk a lot or people who really don't have a tendency to talk a lot, it's very hard to control what comes out of your mouth. Probably most of our regrets come because of things that we say. In fact, in James chapter 3, it says, "We all stumble in many ways, and if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man." So, last week, Brooks, you and I made a challenge to try to be careful with our words and not speak unless necessary to speak. How did you do?
I failed miserably. Let me ask you, Mark. How did you do?
Yeah, I didn't do any better.
No. Silence to us is rudeness.
Yeah, I just noticed in a lot of situations where when I would think about it and try to be quiet, it was very uncomfortable because I felt like I was being rude. I will say that I did think about it enough that looking back over the last week, I don't remember saying anything I regret. So
all I had was an awkward hug. That's all I had.
There are many instances in which we probably have screwed up an entire day because of something we said or somebody said something to us. One off comment or innuendo can just kind of make you feel sick to your stomach. So that's why we're talking about words today. One of the most important disciplines is how you control your tongue, because if you think about all the other disciplines that we do, whether it's praying or time management or taking care of our bodies or going to church or any of the other disciplines we talk about, they can all be basically ruined if we can't control our stupid tongues. And say, if we are constantly suffering from diarrhea of the mouth, then it really doesn't matter how much we discipline ourselves in other areas. We're not going to have any impact on anybody.
Basically, if we don't do our tongues first, then I feel like it's everything else we work on is useless.
Yeah. Because I know that speaking a lot, just saying stuff that you don't even think about can get you in a world of trouble very quickly.
Any of those people
it also can. Yeah, it does lead to very bad roads very quickly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So have you seen those trials in which someone is completely, they can be prosecuted for literally what they say?
Yeah, that's
they'll track your phone and everything.
Yes, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, well, I know, but it's man, that's a little far, don't you think? Sometimes, it just depends on what you said. Now they're coming up with a law against hate speech. That's what they call it. So if you're in public and you say something, let's say racist, right?
Yeah.
They could physically put you in prison.
Oh yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, because words convey ideas, and ideas are extremely powerful. So an old cliche is the pen is mightier than the sword. And the reason is because ideas can shape the world. Your words can be used for good or for evil, and it really just depends on whether or not you're actively going to discipline yourself to be controlled with your words. So Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits." So if you constantly have an uncontrolled tongue, what you're going to do is you're going to end up hurting people. You're going to create trouble, and you're effectively going to destroy your own witness. So if you think about your own life and think about how your life has been shaped by the words of others, you can probably think of instances in which somebody said something to you that you may be forever sensitive about, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, there's always those things that bother you, but then after a long time, well, actually I shouldn't say that. They'll forever bother you. I would rather get in a fist fight than someone be like rude to me and I fail at the response.
You know, sometimes guys will get into an argument and it'll turn physical very quickly, and then they'll get over it.
They get over it quicker when it's physical.
Girls hold things, in my opinion.
Well, they learn how to use words very, very cleverly, often to hurt each other.
Yeah. We kind of use, or I guess men in general, kind of use physical, I guess, activity. I don't know how to say that.
Bruises heal?
No,
they don't stick to you forever.
No, they get out of the way faster. Like, if somebody has a problem with somebody, then in my, future or past, there's been, altercations between me and friends, and they get it out of the way, and then we move on about our lives and, stay friends and stuff. It just isn't, ongoing and holding grudges or anything like that.
Well, those ongoing things of the impact of words, people are often scarred on the inside by words. And if you can figure out what those are, you can figure them out pretty quick. If somebody has called you skinny or teased you about being skinny or being fat or
short,
some kind of a thing that you find to be a defect, there are a lot of people who are very, very insecure and sensitive about things because someone said something to them. And probably the person who you kind of need them to be supportive, if they're the ones who hurt you with their words, like your parents or a friend.
Oh, it hurts so much worse.
Yeah.
You open your heart to them, so it burns, man.
You're just more vulnerable to them.
Yes, You're more vulnerable. You take things more seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Brooks have been called short many times.
Oh, yeah, many times.
How tall are you anyway?
I'm taller than you.
No, you're not.
I don't know. I've been here longer, boy.
We're both about 6'. We're both about 6'6".
I don't know. Whatever works.
Well, you tend to gravitate towards people who know how to use their words well, and you avoid people who have diarrhea of the mouth. So if somebody is just going to just constantly blab or take control of the conversation, you typically avoid those people. But if you have somebody who kind of always has something good to say, always has something helpful to say, or is positive, you'll find yourself gravitating towards those people, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Unless
I do definitely agree with that in cases that, I don't know, people that have better actions, you gravitate towards them because, say you don't want to get in trouble for what they do, or you don't want to get involved in them just because, they're not a good influence or they don't have a good attitude, things like that.
That's why we gravitate towards you, Mark.
Maybe it is.
Because you're nice to us.
Right.
And teenagers.
Until you beat him in basketball, then he's just a sore loser.
We have good conversations.
Hey, he's a dad. He's got to be a sore loser sometimes.
Yeah, you got to be a sore loser.
You gotta throw perfect strides and your dad calling balls just to learn. Then you're like, oh.
Boys, we have diarrhea of the mouth. We're talking trash.
A good conversation can be like food for your soul.
That's true. Feels good.
If you go through the Gospels, many of the things that are recorded in the Gospels are not Jesus' sermons. They're everyday conversations that he had. And those good conversations stuck in their minds. Those are the things that got remembered and got recorded. So, yeah, many of our biggest regrets have to do with our words. And our challenge is always with speaking. So, Richard Foster, in his book, he talks about that we often use our words to control situations, perceptions, and misunderstandings. And so you'll often see this with people who, if they think they're being misunderstood...
Politicians.
Just everyday people. If you think you're being misunderstood, the way you try to control that is you just start talking.
Yeah.
Do we talk politics in here?
Oh, we did. For a
Yeah.
little bit, but not long.
But I think this one is just, if you can think, like, why do you often overpower a conversation? Is because you're afraid that somebody is going to judge you wrong.
Yeah.
And so you're going to control it.
There's been multiple times where, like, I've brought up something in class or something, not meant anything of it, and they've, like, all been against it for some reason, or they have different opinions, so they basically just attack whoever has that opinion.
Right. There's a lot of times where I get into conversations where the person talking to me just keeps talking. You know, one of the things about a conversation I always say is conversation is like breathing. Like, you breathe in, you breathe out. If the conversation is just constantly dominated by one person so that they are always
it's not
talking,
a conversation, it's
an exasperation. Yes. Like, it's just a monologue, and it can be exhausting. That fear of being misunderstood, of wanting to defend ourselves, of wanting to prove a point, often makes us unbridled in our words. We use our words that way. Psalm 38, David is in a situation where, you know, people are lying about him, speaking about him. Verse 38, he says, "But I am like a deaf man, I do not hear, and like a mute man who does not open his mouth. I have become like a man who doesn't hear, and in whose mouth are no rebukes. But for you, O Lord, do I wait. It is you, O Lord, who will answer." In other words, he's saying, I'm refusing to engage in this. It really is an act of faith in order to remain silent. So, if you can imagine, so we did not do a very good job of controlling our words.
We're terrible at it.
Well,
I mean, we did a good job at controlling what we said. That doesn't mean we talk too much. Talking too much and controlling what you say when you're talking is different. I
guess so, but can you imagine what your life would be like if you had to take a vow of silence for like 48 hours?
Oof. Of just silence?
You didn't have to be silent. Like, you didn't have to sit in silence, but you weren't allowed to speak.
I think it would drive you insane.
It wouldn't drive you insane.
Because just the urge to talk whenever other people are talking, or the urge to talk when people are talking to you, that would, I think it would make you go crazy. Even if it was, like, if 48 hours did not make you go crazy, then definitely 72 hours would make you go crazy.
What if we had a day in which we can't speak of ourselves, but only of someone else? So, like, you ask someone else what they're doing, how they've been,
or a day where you can only ask questions.
Yes, you can't answer them. Like, if they're like, yeah, how are you? You're just like, good, and then you send it right back to them.
If someone...
or to ask, like, how are you? Why would you ask that?
I'm not asking. You're not asking me. I'm asking you.
I don't think we should do that, because if you talk to somebody and only ask them questions, if someone did that to me, I'd be just about ready to slap them. Because that would get so annoying.
But people love to talk about themselves.
That's true. All right, James 4:11 says, "Do not speak evil against one another, brothers," which is to say, you are forbidden to do any kind of speaking that runs down another person. And that's kind of hard to, that kind of has to be contextualized a little bit, because sometimes guys will rag on each other and they're not really being serious. We're saying, we may call each other names or tease each other, but it's not like, it's playful.
Yes.
Right?
We've kind of learned that there's this difference between, like, the two sexes in which, like, men, we will bash each other to death with each other around, but then, like, when that guy goes away, we're always like, oh, that guy's a pretty good guy. He's not that bad.
Greatly appreciated.
All
Okay.
right, so, a case in point in this, when I was about your guys' age, we had a ping pong table set up at the church, and me and my best friend were playing ping pong, and we kept trash talking each other, and I kept calling him a piece of trash, And
you piece of trash.
You piece of trash. And there was a lady there who, I think this was on a Saturday, on Sunday after church, she pulled me aside in the parking lot and just gave it to me for calling him a piece of trash.
Are you serious?
Yeah, she was very upset with me for doing that. She was just like, that's supposed to be your friend and you did that. And it's just like,
Mom, we were playing games.
Not like serious. Like that was part of it. So, yeah, a little contextualization. However, there are
Just how people take things.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways that you can be very clever with your tongue that run people down. Whether it's gossip or some kind of a snide remark, people are really, really good at this. Talking about people behind their backs, all of those things would be forbidden by this commandment here in James, not to speak evil against one another. Also in James, verse 26, he says, if anyone thinks he is religious but does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. This is pretty wild because if you can't control your tongue, James says your religion is worthless. It's kind of like what we were saying when you say you can do a fantastic job on all of these other disciplines. You can pray every day and you can not waste your time. You can read your Bible every day. You can witness. You can do all of these things right. But if you can't control your tongue, your religion is worthless because no one's going to listen to you. It's almost like a test of your spirituality, which when you consider it in that context, you maybe realize why so few people have a real impact upon other people.
I get
Totally
you.
agree.
I think that the words that we say are way more influential than anything else in our lives.
Yeah, I would agree.
You got the power to destroy and build at the slightest of words.
Right. Jesus says, out of the heart the mouth speaks. He also says you will give an account for every idle word, which is really something because how many times we have said something and we don't remember. Which, by the way, I get quoted by people all of the time, and it makes me nervous every time. I'll sit in a Bible study or I'll be talking to somebody, and they'll be like, you know, I think I agree with Pastor Mark when he says, and then I like flinch every time, like, oh, what in the world is about ready to come out of their mouth? And then they'll say something I said, and sometimes it takes me a minute to remember
if you said it.
If I ever said it.
I could get that. So when you said that, God, we will make sure we take account of every word we say.
Right.
Does that mean that, like, if we're cutting up with our buddy talking trash, is he going to use that against us? I don't. Because I would imagine.
No, I don't think that's what it means. I think it's the intention of the words, because you can make your words sound sweet as butter, or smooth as butter, and you can be just as vile in those smooth words as you are if you're trying to just joke around with a guy. The idea is that if you think that judgment is only going to be on the major things, you're wrong. Like everything you do is brought into judgment. But that's the way life is. Life, you think of life being made up of big things, but really life is just as much made up of the little things. It's the little things you say. It's the little things that you do that add up. So, well, anyway, if you can't control your tongue, I think we can just say no one will listen to you and no one should listen to you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's just so many people who just go out there and just say whatever the first thing pops out in their head, you know. And everybody just immediately notices they're a complete moron. Alex Saiwa.
I've had to deal with this all throughout my life. You know, I used to have a guy who was what I call a long talker. In other words, he would just keep talking in order to keep you. He would keep me after church wanting to talk. I would eventually walk out of the church. He would keep talking to me. I would walk all the way to the car, even when I had my wife and kids, and they were little, and we were trying to get home. He would just keep talking. I would sit in the car, start to pull the door shut. He still wouldn't stop talking. That's just rude.
Yeah.
That's insulting. So that's an unbridled tongue. He didn't say anything evil, but
he just talks too much.
There's a point where you just need to leave somebody alone.
In other words, he could have said things that were just gold as far as wisdom or helpfulness, But at that point, I no longer listen to him.
I think there's a point in which if you could tell someone's trying to leave, then just stop talking. Just let them go.
Yeah, pick up on those social cues, right?
Yeah. I wish they had a class on teaching you social cues, because there's people that would take that all around the world.
Yes.
Even in our school, it's still pretty prevalent that we need that.
Yeah.
So we can transition here to say, there's a lot of things that you can do with your words that can cause a lot of trouble. In fact, in R. Kent Hughes' book, Disciplines of a Godly Man, he says that there was, back in the late 1800s, there was 4 newspaper guys in Denver waiting for they had nothing to report on a Saturday night for the Sunday morning paper. So they all went to a train station hoping that somebody famous would show up so that they'd have nobody did. So they go to the local bar and sit, and they concoct a story about American engineers going to China to, I think, tear down the wall, the Great Wall. It was supposed to be satire. It wasn't supposed to be taken for real. They went ahead and wrote the paper, the story anyway. The story gets circulated around the country, goes to China. There's a group of people in China freak out and create a rebellion. It's called the Boxer Rebellion. People died.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Yeah, it was insane.
And it all started because of 4 bored newspaper reporters who decided to make up a story as a joke.
What?
Yeah. It's wild.
How did someone get killed? What happened?
They started a rebellion.
It was an all-out war.
People, the story went to China, and they thought that it was a real story. They didn't know it was a joke.
Well, wouldn't they know that, though? They're over there living there.
They don't know,
I mean, man.
The difference in between American culture and Chinese culture.
Think about how many things today,
Yeah.
how many riots today get started because of misinformation,
Yeah.
All of them.
right?
Pretty much.
So,
Have you ever seen a riot, like in real life?
no, I hope I never do.
I hope I never do,
That's
too.
why I live in quiet little energy.
Quiet?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
not all
if
that
one
quiet.
house catches on fire, the whole town catches on fire.
Hey,
Yeah.
man. If someone's gonna try to attack my car while I'm driving through it,
We can't have Polaroid
there's gonna be
right
a
now.
lot of human speed bumps.
Yeah. Well, here's one thing I'll say is that if you can really tear things up with your words, but you can't just stop the conversation and say, yeah, our words are dangerous. We need to be careful with our words. Because if that's the case, you might ask yourself, why in the world did God give us the ability to speak words at all? And the reason is because if you can become good with your words, if you can become clear and precise with your words to convey what you mean, you can become deadly effective.
Yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable. What do you think psychologists do?
Well, psychologists just listen. But you think about the people who are some of the most powerful people in the world. Why are they powerful? It's because they can speak. You think about Barack Obama. Barack Obama had no experience. He got into politics. All he had been was a community organizer, which is basically not a job. Yeah. But he was good at speaking. And he got the presidency because he was a better public speaker. That was his major talent. And that's the way it is with a lot of people. They're really good at speaking. If you can become good at speaking, people will just pay you money to speak.
You should be the president, Mark.
Yeah, that would be a terrible
all the
thing.
people with common sense don't want to be president.
Yeah, at this rate, our country
Have you
is so
seen like
broken.
the aging of presidents like when they first get in office and when they leave?
Yeah.
Literally, it looks like they've aged like 6 years to 10 years.
Yeah.
Elon Musk for president 2024.
How about that?
Honestly, I think he could do it, but I think he'd do some crazy stuff.
Oh, definitely. But his crazy stuff is like intelligent, just deep down.
Yeah, but I also think that he doesn't really care about like what's going on, and he just he just like wants to focus on his businesses and like what he's trying to.
I wouldn't want to either. The world is dumb.
I think he just wants people to be able to speak freely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things about
and like do things freely, I guess.
one of the things about speaking is that sometimes you kind of need the ability to mess up what you say. It's like if you speak,
You can't say everything perfectly.
Yeah.
well, like even in a room like this, if one of you says something that you haven't thought about, you pick up the social cues when everybody else in the room looks at you like, are you insane? Like, why did you even say that? It's a way of learning. So you learn sometimes by saying things and watching people's reaction. So if you don't have the ability to speak freely, it hampers people's ability to actually learn these things. So
one thing I can really respect though is if you know what you're thinking about, like you're smart, like you know everything you're gonna say, but then you can actually back up what you're saying.
With
Like
facts.
I know we're not like bringing up politics all the time, but like the whole Disney versus Florida, DeSantis, I mean he knew what the heck was going on, and he actually backed up what he was saying. He called it Disney out whenever they said that they were going to change that law, and then he just did it.
right, had he not been good with his words, he would have never been able to win that battle.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And there are people who their job is to craft words.
Yeah.
Speech writers, advertisers, marketers, everything they do is to craft words. I mean, that's basically what I do. I give a speech every week, and then through the week I work to prepare that speech. It's just amazing that if you can become good with your words, you can change people's minds.
Where you use them to control situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it says in Proverbs 18, in the tongue you have the ability to give life or take it, you got to remember, you have the ability to really help people if you can become good with your words.
Do you think that Hitler was the best public speaker of all time?
I doubt it, but he was obviously an effective public speaker as far as that's how he rose to power. Yeah, he was insane, but he was apparently good with his words.
Yeah. I'm saying even though he was a terrible man, I'm saying he was the world's greatest leader of all time. He got more accomplished than anybody could. Even knowing listen. Even knowing he is a awful human being doesn't mean he was bad at his job.
Well, in John chapter 7,
you can be an awful human, like, just to get straight, you can be a terrible human being, but if you're a terrible human being and you're good at being a terrible human being, that's
one thing, I guess. Yeah. If in John chapter 7, they send officers to arrest Jesus, and they come back having not arrested him, and they said, "Why didn't you arrest him?" And they said, "No one ever spoke like this man did."
Yeah.
He was so good with his words that they could not arrest him. Like, they just couldn't. They were spellbound. So, your ability to use your words well, in disciplining yourself for using your words. The thing is, like, right now, what we're trying to do is we're working together to disciple, all right? We're trying to disciple you guys. One day, as you guys get older, your task is to be able to disciple other guys. So your ability to disciple them is going to depend a lot on your ability to use your words, because you're going to want to teach them things. So, all right, I got two bits of advice, one from Charles Spurgeon and the other one from Dale Carnegie. So Charles Spurgeon, first of all, says when it comes to your just having conversations with people, he says the first thing is don't act too pious.
What does that mean?
Yeah, pious means you're just like very religious, very holy, and you kind of imagine somebody who kind of always has a pious air about him. So
basically, don't flood me with religion.
Did you guys have to read Pride and Prejudice for English?
Yes. Ew, yes.
Okay, do you remember the guy who was a preacher and he was supposed to marry the one
Mr.
daughter?
Collins?
Something like that. And nobody liked him.
Yeah, he was weird.
Yeah, the reason why they didn't like him is because he tried to be overly pious all of the time.
I know you're talking. Yes, I understand that.
He had to have a very particular way of speaking, so he sounded very holy.
Oh,
and it just made everybody want to puke.
For me, it was less of that, more of that he was just a straight up creep.
He was kind of weird.
The reason why he was a creep was because he tried to be a preacher and preach sermons in the everyday conversation. He's just kind of a weirdo. And he was in love with the Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
No, that
who was like 90 years old.
No, you're thinking of the wrong guy.
No.
It's the young guy who was supposed to marry the one sister.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Mr. Collins. What was you
saying? It was their cousin, and he was like in love with this 90-year-old woman.
Yeah, the Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Yeah.
Okay, we're getting off on a tangent here, boys.
Right. Well, anyway, that's the first thing. Don't act too pious. The second thing is, he says, always remember who you are. So, in other words, you always are representing something. So you're representing, yourself, your family, your faith, your community, everywhere you go, you're always represented. So always remember that. So even in your everyday conversation, like if you have a certain job, you can clock out and you can walk away. If you're
like once you put in your 8 hours, then you're done.
You're done. Like nobody cares what you do after that. But
Salary.
when it comes to your character, you never clock out. So, third, he says, be sociable. In other words, when it comes to bridling your tongue, that doesn't mean become a monk. All right, you've got to be able to have conversations with people, because having conversations with them shows that you're a friendly person and that you care.
Still be personable.
Yeah, still be personable. Number 4, he says, be cheerful, which, makes you the type of person who everybody likes to talk to. I can't remember who it was, but he said, there's a book where he says, some of the best advice I can give you for being a friendly person is to take the lessons from your dog.
What?
Yeah, well, who's the person who greets you and is always happy to see you when you get home, no matter what day you've had?
Yeah.
Yeah, your dog. And there's an old joke.
You can do something horrible to it, and it's always going to be like, I love you.
There's an old joke that says, if you want to know who loves you more, your wife or your dog, lock both of them in the trunk and open it up and see which one's happy to see you.
Oh, that's
Yep.
awful.
Yeah, that's a great advice, but there's just one problem with that. If we're trying to act like our dog, I do not want to act like Mom's stupid dog. That thing craps everywhere.
Yeah.
Isaac has this thing against little dogs. He thinks it messes with his manliness.
That dog craps on the floor 15 times a day. And it looks like this little dog you carry around in a purse.
There it is. That's why he doesn't like it.
Panda.
All right, number 5 was don't overrun the conversation. I talked about that earlier. Don't monopolize the conversation. Remember that part of the goal of it is the ability to have an actual conversation, go back and forth. And then 6, he says, try to make the conversation profitable. So, you can have conversations that just kind of just float off and you talk about anything, the weather or sports or hunting or something like that.
We call that shooting the bull.
Yeah, just it's a forgettable conversation. If you're going to make your words count, try to make it profitable. Try to bring it somewhere close. Dale Carnegie has 6 ways to make people like you. The first was be genuinely interested in other people. In other words, when you're having a conversation with them, be there. Don't always be looking away, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's
right,
good.
Mark.
That's actually really good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 2, smile.
I feel bad.
Keep eye contact.
Yeah.
Listen, you're the bomb at this, and I remember this because we went on our first adventure to talk to some people, right? And
Yeah.
you just kept going, oh yeah. And they just still talk you off, and you're like,
Yep.
oh yeah, oh. Yep. You're doing it right now.
I know.
Even if you're not engaged with the conversation, you just have to make little noises to, yep,
Mm-hmm. I totally understand.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Do you know which pastor has the largest church in America?
Is it in Texas?
Yep.
I expect these things. Who is it? Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
All right, Andy.
One thing you're going to learn from Joel Osteen: smile. He smiles through his entire sermon.
Remember, there's that whole thing of his teeth are too white.
I could do that. Just smile throughout my whole sermon.
You'd look insane.
Hey guys.
Hi, welcome to church.
Yep.
The second thing you'll get
I
is
always like to start off with something funny. Yeah.
Listen, there's that whole thing about having your teeth too white. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could look right through them. Teenagers are the best at this. When someone comes in and we're like, that guy's off-putting, I can tell this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. You have to be personable. Like, what was his name? Joel Osteen? I could see right through him that he's just acting very sociable or trying to, when really on the inside he could care less.
Probably so. I don't know.
Yeah, it's basically like a manual how to get to hell by listening to his sermons, honestly. It really is.
All right.
Have you heard any of it?
No, but I don't know. Cut this part out. Cut this part out.
All right, number 3.
Out of
Remember their
pocket.
name. I can tell you that one of the biggest things. So I read about this right before we came here to Canada for the pastor job. I met probably 200 people in 2 days.
Whoa.
Because everybody from the church just came through to say hello.
Yeah.
So they would talk to me, and as soon as they told me their name, I just sat there and repeated their name over and over and over again in my head. In order to remember their name, I would try to say their name back to them so that it would stick, so that by Sunday, when it was time to come to church, I remembered almost everybody's names.
And it really surprised a lot of people.
It would surprise people because they'd say, he remembered our name.
I remember that because it made you seem more of like a
Personable guy.
like down-to-earth
That you care.
preacher that is wanting to be friendly with everybody instead of just preach.
Not doing it for the paycheck.
It makes a huge difference.
It's less for the money and more of, I want to be able to actually...
Names are easily
make a
forgotten.
family.
So if you
Yeah.
take the time and the energy to remember their name, it's a powerful tool to be effective with people. Number 4, be a good listener. So the flip side of being a good speaker is to be a good listener. I would say a big part of that is asking good questions. Number 5, talk about what interests other people. So instead of just, making the conversation be according to what you want to talk about, let them talk about what they want to talk about. And then number 6, make the other person feel important. So,
Yeah.
But this is the idea. You want your words to count because your life is made up of, it's largely made up of the conversations that you have. Wise words give life, and an uncontrolled tongue can destroy it. So if we're going to be faithful followers of Christ, we're going to have to become disciplined in our words. And...
I don't have anything to say.
Brooks, do you have something to say here, buddy?
And you looked at me and were like, finish it off. I don't know how to respond.
I thought you had something wise you were about ready to say.
Oh, nothing.
I
Wise?
did.
You think
I
I'm a
did.
wise guy? I will say one thing. How's this? For anyone who's listening right now, I just want to see if you can try out these steps just this week. Just try it out on someone. Don't tell them you're doing it. Just go through these steps one by one, and I guess just see if something changes. See if they're genuinely interested.
Sometimes you
in
just
the
have to allow
conversation.
yourself to be interrupted. Conversations happen at places like Walmart, places like the gas station. You may be in a hurry, but somebody wants to stop talk to you. Sometimes you just need to let them talk, and you follow these. Yeah, seem interested. It'll make a huge difference. All right, next week we're going to do Bible reading and the discipline of reading our Bibles. So this is our challenge for the upcoming week.
Read 30 minutes of your Bible every day.
Every day.
Consistently every day. Find the time. There's no way that
You can
you're
do more
so
than 30
busy.
minutes, just the minimum is 30 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no way.
We were going to set so many chapters, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to set a time.
All right, that's fine. I was going to say, there's no way that you can just... You don't have the time to read something for 30 minutes. Everyone has 30 minutes in their day. I don't care what your excuse is. You got 30 minutes.
It also
But
helps
that doesn't
for you to
even
go
mean
to
that-
bed.
Doesn't mean you need
It
to put it
does.
all together. 15
I guess
minutes
you could
in the
break it
morning,
up.
15 minutes in the evening. If you're just running all the time.
Literally, if you're running all the time, read your Bible in the shower.
Yeah.
You can do it on your phone. I
Laminate
know
every
this.
single page.
Listen,
all back
it's
to-
silent in there. All you hear is the water run,
So
and you've got your phone.
You're going to get your mom gets the water bill, and she's like, what the heck?
What have you been doing?
What have you been doing in there? Read my Bible.
We're back to what Brooks said. Brooks says he can do anything in the shower.
Okay.
Whenever we took cold showers, he said that he literally
some
got
food.
half of his morning routine done in the shower.
I brushed my teeth, shaved my face. It was cold and awful, but I wanted to do it to see how long I can manage.
How are you shaving
I've
in a
literally,
cold shower?
You you get it done like that, so you're just like shave, and you're out.
It's not going to be a good job.
Don't cut face.
And
don't
now,
cut face.
and now reading the Bible at the same time.
Listen, you got your razor in one hand,
He's
your
got-
Bible on your phone in the other, and you're just letting it rip with your right hand, trying to shave your face as fast as possible, and scrolling with your tongue.
All right. So that's the thing. Even at the canoe trip, We're bringing our Bibles along.
That's going to be so much fun. I'm literally so pumped.
Our Bibles from Paul's Leather Company.
Oh, Paul's Leather Company, please sponsor us, please. We've been wanting this for
If you want a good
weeks.
Bible, you need to go to paulsleathercompany.com.
Paul, send me one because I don't have the money to buy
the
one.
best
me
Bibles.
too, buddy.
Paul and I might not even be alive, but whoever's running it, we want something. Send us one hat. We'll be happy with one $5 hat. I know for a fact they're not that expensive.
If you send us something, we will put you in the loading screen so that it will play during the whole podcast.
Whenever
we just need like 3 Bibles.
Whenever we finally blow up on YouTube, we'll have you as our first sponsor.
And guest.
And I'll hold up the Bible
and are
you sent me
always
for
sponsors.
free.
Yeah.
We will buy you an airplane ticket. No, I have no idea.
No, we won't.
Yeah, we don't make that much here at the Barbells Podcast.
But we would like some donations if
Yeah.
you
That'll
know,
work.
some people just have the money.
We don't do this for the money. We do this for the emails.
Which we have gotten 0.
Are you serious?
But please email us. Tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Bible and Barbells
Kaufman.
Podcast at gmail.com.
All right, shout out to Caleb Kaufman for listening to the podcast. Okay,
Yeah, we need to start shouting out guests
that have listened
Right.
and told me they listened to it.
All right. Join us next week for another episode
Of the Barbells and Barbells Podcast.
Awesome.
Love you guys. See you later.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem, bro.